Salawat. My brothers, I'm very humbled to be invited to come and speak with all of you today. It means a great deal, and I appreciate the opportunity to discuss such hard times that we are going through, and commemorate such a difficult time that we commemorate every year. And I'd like to start with a question we hear often during this time of why are we here? Why do we gather to recall the tragedy of Karbala, commemorate the lives of the Ahlul Bayt? Why do we do this? We've taken such efforts to gather. Why during the month of Muharram? This is the very first month of the Islamic year. And various cultures, this is salawat. My brothers and sisters, cultures throughout the entire world, when you start a new year, they celebrate. Right? They throw confetti and they gather and they celebrate. Why do we approach this time with such sorrow? Why do we take this time and fill it with such profound sorrow? If we wish to gain the most out of Muharram every year, my brothers and sisters, I encourage that we need to look past traditions and behaviors and gaze upon the intent to understand why we approach this time so uniquely. For what intent has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed upon us that Muharram be a time of mourning? What purpose did He have in us to memorialize the sacrifices made by the Ahlul Bayt? Why did the Ahlul Bayt sacrifice themselves to begin with? We begin every year, my brothers and sisters, heartbroken. As sons watch their fathers weep, as daughters watch their mothers cry, we shed tears while others throw confettis. Why? And for this, let me offer you this concept that does the child not cry the moment that it is born? The first breath that it takes is the second not anguish. Is this not how all of us begin our journey of life? Well, just as a child cries at being born, my brothers, so do we at being spiritually reborn every year. Because Muharram is much more than just a time of tears. It is more than a time of sacrifice. It is more than all of our traditions that we uphold so diligently. Muharram is a time of Islamic renaissance, of Islamic rebirth. And how can we know that this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills of us? Because this is what He sought of the Ahlul Bayt. This is what the purpose of their sacrifice, to be a rebirth for Islam, to cleanse Islam of those corrupting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's word, to expose the oppressors of sinners, to reaffirm the message and unquestionable character of the progeny of our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Brothers, the Ahlul Bayt sacrifice their lives to bring about a rebirth of Islam and our tears and our sorrow and our practice of majalis. It continues that spiritual rebirth annually, and from the macro to the micro, Muharram is a time of timeless revolution of rebirth. From the blood of Imam Hussein alayhi salam to the tireless words of Bibi Zainab, the Ahlul Bayt cleansed all of Islam with their sacrifice. And each year, through raised palms, through unrelenting tears, sobs we cannot contain in our chest, my brothers, we affirm that not only is this sacrifice still alive, but their story also cleanses us. It cleanses our own souls. It awakens our own spiritual rebirth to become better mu'min, better Muslims. That their sacrifice not only saved Islam, it saves each of us every year. So that we can start each year reborn. What greater celebration is that? With the same opportunity to define ourselves and our future year ahead of us, the same opportunity is given to a newborn child as it enters this earth. So I ask you, my brothers and sisters, why are we here? We are here to transform ourselves. Do you know how many non-believers and non-practicing Muslims were guided towards the light during the month of Muharram? We are so blessed, so many of us, to be born into the light of the progeny of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We were born with this blessing upon us. So many weren't. Wahab al-Qalb, he was a young Christian in his caravan, traveling with his mother and bride after having just been married. And they were returning to Kufa after their marriage when they came across Imam Hussein alayhi salam's caravan. And upon hearing speeches by Imam Hussein and seeing how he was surrounded by those trying to oppress him, he grew a fondness for our Imam. And wishing to learn more, followed Imam Hussein alayhi salam's caravan all the way to Karbala. This was not a man born into Islam. He was a Christian. And even as the tragedies of Ashura took place and the family and the companions of our Imam fell one by one, he pleaded to Imam Hussein alayhi salam to allow him to fight as well. When our Imam was elected, this was a matter between Muslims. As a Christian, why get involved in such unrelated matters? They only traveled together, but for a short time. This man just married. He had a whole life ahead of him. Why die for a religion that's not his own? Imam Hussein alayhi salam hesitated in giving him permission to fight, but Wahab al-Qalb recognized the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the burden held by Imam Hussein, by the weight of the responsibility he held towards Islam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No man could carry such great burden if he were not sacrificing for the true supreme being. That day, in the 10th of Karbala, Wahab al-Qalb recited the kalma and converted to Islam. And with his mother's permission, he took to the battlefield and fought for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And my brothers, we know what it means to fight on the day of Ashura. It was a fight not meant to be won. And when he fell off his horse, sacrificed to Islam, his wife just married to him, ran to him. And the wife for only a few days, she wept for his loss, but through those tears, you could hear her celebration that my loving husband, congratulations to you, congratulations for I spoke with Imam and you have learned paradise. You have earned paradise. And he's vowed that I will find you there. And Shimr, seeing this, sent a slave to kill her as well. And it took just one blow, and there on the sands of Karbala now lay two bodies who have passed away, but have truly been reborn. Because he came to Karbala Muslim, and a Christian, and now he leaves a Muslim. This is, my brothers, a season of change. We mourn the sacrifice of Wahab al-Qalb. It breaks our hearts, but we also must celebrate his salvation, because in his final moments he recognized the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the eyes and words of Imam Hussein. He took the responsibility that came with that knowledge. This is a beautiful example of utilizing the divine characteristic Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala endows all of us with, or aql, or ability to reason and to make a choice. Wahab al-Qalb was not born a Muslim, but when confronted with light, when confronted with knowledge and inspiration, he used his aql, his ability to reason, and made a choice that came with a heavy burden. But with it also the honor of being forever respected in paradise as one who sacrificed himself in the sands of Karbala. Think of how profound this is. That when exposed to Imam Hussein alayhi salam and the progeny of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, look at the impact. Look at the impact upon a non-Muslim to discover the guiding light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yet right across the encampment, you have Muslims who have taken arms, and they deny that very same family water. They shoot arrows upon them. They burn their encampment. If you wish ill and death upon the innocent children of the family of your own prophet, can it be denied that the Islam you are following cannot be the Islam of the very prophet you swear by? Somehow, in some way, they have been corrupted. And so we return once again to this question, why are we here? Why are the sacrifices of Ashura so important to us? What was occurring in Islam that such a sacrifice was warranted, and you can have Muslims so misguided? But when Islam began, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's task was to cultivate and stimulate the aql in man towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's light. But after his death, in the generation under the control of Bani Umayyah, the message was being destroyed. They took this message and did exactly the opposite. Using religion to subjugate and sedate the population, they ruled through oppressing the Muslim people. And through practices of brutal violence, they cultivated a culture of fear and ignorance among the Muslims. Not aql, not the ability to choose, the ability to cower. And through violent oppression and control, the Bani Umayyah were not cultivating or stimulating the aql of mankind towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were instead closing the minds of Muslim brothers and sisters from the ayat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala offered them by fear and oppression. In their greed and lust for power, they were distorting God's message. And when the message suffers, the people grow ignorant to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala truly wills of us. How can a man fulfill his duty toward the supreme being under this rule? How can a religion of misled people with driven ignorance claim to be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's representatives on earth? Who was there to defend Islam? Who was there to protect the Muslim people? To stand there and reintroduce aql to the masses? Who? To contest the action of the Bani Umayyah would bring nothing but death. This all knew. Everyone knew. So who would stand and renounce their distortions of the Islamic faith? Islam needed a man, a divine leader, appointed, chosen, and selected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. Imam Hussein Islam. Salawat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his wisdom, he knew that only a person like Imam Hussein was qualified to change the direction of Islam. The Ahlul Bayt were divinely chosen to be sacrificed, and they accepted this responsibility. They too had freedom of choice. And they chose in their aql to sacrifice themselves for the cause to protect Islam, for the cost of us being here today, being able to memorialize them. They saw us then, and with their freedom of choice, chose to allow the tragedies of Ashura to fall upon them. And they died to expose this treachery. They knew that their blood was the only thing pure enough on this earth to cleanse the depth of corruption that the Bani Umayyah has brought about to Islam. They knew that the only way to cleanse Islam would be reborn from such tragedy. And the blood that they spilt on Karbala, they poured the words of our Prophet back into the ears of the masses. And those who heard those words cried out tears that the injustices that happened in Karbala were too much. And then those cries echoed. And then those cries echoed. And then those cries echoed. And today it is Muharram, and brothers, we cry. We cry because we don't know how to control the emotions when we hear the tragedy of Karbala. We cry, we march, we gather to strike fear in the hearts of any who wish to oppress Islam again. Yes, brothers, Ashura dyed the fabric Islam red with the blood of the Ahlul Bayt, but we wash the filth of the oppression of Islam every year as we shed tears on Muhammad. Salawat. Imam Hussein may have died on Ashura, but we must not fail to recognize that in his death he also brought life. Life to the plight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, life back to the words of the Quran, life to the relationship between man and Islam, life for the man's ability to use their aql, to look at these tragedies and just ask the question, why? Why did this happen? This is why we call Islam the Renaissance of Muharram, the Renaissance of Islam. Because Renaissance means rebirth. And it's not just a rebirth for Islam, it is also a rebirth for us. Because those who understand this the most, we do not feel discouraged at the sorrow we bear during Muharram. We do not complain or approach the heartbreak and sacrifices we make during Muharram with apprehension. No, in fact, we anticipate Muharram eagerly. We cherish it. We are proud to carry the burden of remembering the sacrifices made of the Ahlul Bayt, of playing our role and handling the responsibility of preserving the sanctity and purity of Islam as intended by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sallam. But were any of us as eager to bear the responsibility of preserving Islam as the son of Imam Hussein al-Hassan alayhi salam, 13-year-old Hazrat Qasim? All the companions, my brothers, were gone. They all fought bravely, trying to protect the family of our Imam, and now none were left. On Muhammad, younger than Hazrat Qasim, they too went to battle, they too died. Hazrat Qasim came to his uncle, tears in his eyes, pleading for permission. And Imam Hussain al-Islam looked at this beautiful young man, a fleeting image of his own brother, Imam Hassan al-Islam, who he loved so deeply. And he spoke, "My Qasim, you are my brother's son, but I have a love for you no less than my own. I swore to my brother to protect you, to serve you, and at only 13 years of age, sweet, brave Qasim, I cannot give you permission to sacrifice yourself." Hazrat Qasim went to his mother in tears, at which Farwa, his mother, recalled Imam Hassan al-Islam mentioning that a time like this would occur, where Hazrat Qasim would face great difficulty, and on that day, she should open his taweez, and within it he should find the answer he searched for. And as he opened the taweez, within it was a letter written by Imam Hassan al-Islam himself, and it read, "My dear son Qasim, a day will come where your uncle Imam Hussain al-Islam will face great armies of thousands. And that is the day where Islam will need my own sacrifice, and on that day, my son, you will represent me." Imam Hussain al-Islam read the letter and looked towards Hazrat Qasim. "How am I to disagree with the will of my brother? But do me one favor, my dear nephew. When you go into battle, do so with the cloak and turban of your father, of my brother Hassan. Qasim, you look so much like him, sweet Qasim. Do me this one favor, so I can look upon my brother's beautiful face once more. And like this, young Hazrat Qasim rode into battle, young as he may be. This is still the grandson of Hazrat Ali, and he was trained to fight by none other than Hazrat Abbas. Hazrat Abbas. Like Imam Hussain alayhi salam, you too are this young boy's chacha. And when Imam Hassan alayhi salam passed away, he may have placed Qasim in Imam Hussein's care, but is it not your hands as well that helped nurture and raise this young man? Was it not your strong hand that placed the sword in his palm and taught him to fight? Was it not your hand that placed his small body on a horse and taught him to ride? Oh, my Hazrat Abbas, how you and your hands, your strong hands that are imbued with the strength of Hazrat Ali himself, how have these hands helped raise this boy to adulthood? Hazrat Abbas, did those strong hands tremble in Karbala as they once again placed a sword in that small boy's palm? How they once again placed him upon a horse for a final time, for a final ride to a battle where he will not return. Hazrat Abbas, those hands clenched when struck on the head. Hazrat Qasim fell from his horse calling out, "My chachas! Chacha, my Abbas, my Imam, I have fallen. Chacha Abbas, save me. Hazrat Abbas, how your name, when it is screamed, strikes fear in the hearts of Yazid's men. As Qasim screamed out to you, how panic filled their hearts. My brothers on their horses, they ran from here to there, from there to here, but the boy, Qasim, Hazrat Qasim, fallen on the ground, screaming, Chacha, Chacha. What of him? What of this boy? As the horses run, trampling upon him, he's silencing his cries. Qasim, Qasim, my beautiful Qasim, Imam Hussain, run through the desert screaming, Qasim, speak to me. Qasim, let me find you. Just let me hear your voice. But my Imam, there is no one left on this battlefield. Even all of Yazid's men fled in fear. Fear of the wrath of Abbas, fear of their own death at the hand of the protector of Islam, at the hand of the lion of the Ahlul Bayt, at the hands of Hazrat Abbas, strong hands of Hazrat Abbas. But what good was that strength? It can never put back together a rose from 1,000 scattered petals. What good is the strength of that hand when before you lays the body trampled of Hazrat Qasim, Hazrat Abbas? You see your brother lay down, spread his cloak, and gather the remains of your nephew, Hazrat Abbas. I now understand. I now understand why, when those strong hands fell from your own body, crashing upon the sands of Karbala, how you must have remembered the side of your brother, picking up Qasim piece by piece, placing it. My Abbas, I understand that the only guilt that you could carry, greater than the thirst of Bibi Sakina crying Allah Tash, would be the burden of giving your brother one more body, one more loved one to pick up off the sands of Karbala. I understand, my Abbas, Hazrat Abbas. Abbas, I understand that when Imam Hussein gave his final request to you to for once in your life call him Bhaiya, the only thought that could come to you was Bhaiya. Don't bring me back to the tents, Bhaiya. Bhaiya, don't bring me back to the tents. I understand, Hazrat Abbas, that your hands may no longer be able to put Qasim together again, that your hands may never be able to quench the thirst of Bibi Sakina. But in this request, even without hands, you still took a burden off your Imam's back. You still took a burden off your master, the burden of our Imam, carrying his brother back in pieces to encampment by Abbas. Even as you call him Bhaiya with your final breath, you still upheld your duty as our Imam Hussein's Ghulam. Inna Allah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Muhammad.